From WBBZ-TV Sports, it's time to Beat the Champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Beat the Champ. My name is Paul Peck, joined by Hall of Fame bowler Sue Novoitsky. Sue, the summer is over. League play has kicked in again. Bowling is back on the minds of Western New York bowlers and sports fans, and here we are back with another good week of Beat the Champ.
That's right. We had a great summer out here, but again, another all-star weekend for us tonight. So we have some great bowling to look forward to.
We're in a place, Classic Lanes in Kenmore, that tends to be a high-scoring bowling house. That's always good. More pins, more excitement, more close games. I'm looking forward to it.
That's right. So we have our incoming champion, which is Jeff Walsh, a great right-hander from this area, taking on a great left-hander, Pat Brick, one of the best left-hander. Then the winner of that is going to meet another right-hander in Andy Ochal, and then Sam Carson. Yeah. What hand will he pick?
Who bowls both left and right. He'll have to pick. We'll update that when we get later on. We've got some veterans. We've got Andy Ochal as a newcomer, so it should be another good week of bowling here. It is a Buffalo TV Classic at Classic Lanes, so let's get rolling. And here we go with our first match. There's Jeff Walsh on the left and Pat Brick on the right. And Walsh will start things off. 43 years old from Cheektowaga. He's making his third Beat the Show appearance. An overall record of 3 wins and 1 loss. And last week, Sue, you got to hand him the trophy. And he comes back as our returning champion for the first match of today here at Classic Lanes.
Well, you see the first shot out of Jeff. Coming up a little light. Didn't hit that as well as he would have liked to. His target's a little bit inside, which is kind of odd to start a match out this early in the day. The track is normally what plays first, but we've got Jeff a little bit inside of that because he's got a lot of hand and a lot of rotation. We're
at Classic Lanes on Military Road in Kenmore, just off the 290. Kind of our second month here in this general neighborhood of Kenmore and Tonawanda. We were down the street at Sheridan on Sheridan Drive last month, but this is a good area for bowling. Lots of good bowlers in the Kenmore-Tonawanda area, and we've had good turnouts for qualifying this month as well, too. And now we get our first look at Pat Brick making his second appearance on Beat the Champ. He was actually the top qualifier for the second time. He was also the top qualifier at Alley Brant Lanes, but when he started that first match, he wound up losing, so he's got an 0-1 record here on Beat the Champ.
Just a testimony to how strong of a bowler Pat is. He shot 800. He was the only 800 score, and that's a very difficult score to shoot, let alone in a qualifier under the pressure. So he shot 803 to qualify to make the show.
When we talked last time about Pat, we talked a lot about the oil conditions and how some of them really favored his game and maybe some of them didn't, but at least tell us where we're at with the oil conditions on the synthetic lanes here at Classic.
Well, Pat's one of the few bowlers that bowls so many tournaments that he actually favors the more difficult lane condition. In this case, this is a house shot, so this is going to be, one of the more wide open, more high scoring conditions for the masses. And he just found a way to compensate by pulling out an older ball, older technology that smooths out the lane surface for him.
A 7-year-old ball, he said, he's using here today. Now, last time, and for the last couple of weeks, we've had different qualifying conditions and different competition lane conditions, but here we are with the same for both. So that should, well, you tell me, what does that mean? And there's your best ways to keep track of what's going on with the show on social media at Beat the Champ TV, and of course, like us on our Beat the Champ Facebook page. What do you figure the lane conditions will have an effect on things here today?
Well, one of the nice things about the new Beat the Champ is it does go from house to house, so each proprietor has the ability to choose what lane condition they want to put out, what scoring condition they'd like to represent. So in this case, they've gone with the house shot, the higher scoring condition. So you're going to find that you maybe see more strikes. But again, as we saw at Alley Brant, depends how you play him. Like Jeff playing deep like this. Here he missed his target. He's missed his target to the right.
He's on a rough start. You just saw the open frame with only 8 pins in the second frame, and now a cluster of pins left here in the third. Jeff just doesn't seem to have been able to find that line yet. And there you see the updated look at our Beat the Champ Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, manned as always by Janelle Sabin. What's Jeff struggling with early on?
Well, what you're going to find is after the practice on this pair, the oil will carry down. It inevitably happens that what you see when you start practicing starts to alter as you bowl. He's got some carry down. He's going to have to move everything right. He's going to have to move his feet right and his eyes a little bit left and square up to his target a little bit more because of the carry down holds the ball off.
All right, so that's back-to-back open frames for Jeff Walsh, and here's 49-year-old Pat Brick from Tonawanda, full-time occupation as a pharmacy technician. He has been bowling since he's 7 years old, and as you mentioned, he is one of the top bowlers in all of Western New York. Oh,
wow.
Almost looking at that 7-10 split before the 10-pin fell late. So that leaves Pat in a good situation for a spare here. As you mentioned, even though we haven't seen a lot of Pat on this show, he is among the elite of the elite here in our area.
Absolutely. He started out in college, was a great college bowler, and maintained his career, through the last 20 years.
And that's a spare in the third frame for Pat Brick.
Pat's one of those guys that are really hard on himself. I've bowled with him. We've bowled teams together. I've been around when he's been bowling, and he's very difficult on himself. So he challenges himself and really looks for perfection. So it's kept him a strong bowler.
His wife Angela is here watching the broadcast and watching our performance here today. He would love to have had his daughter Maddie here, especially the day after her 9th birthday, but something like school got in the way.
Yep.
Another strike for Pat in the fourth frame. Good start for him. So Pat bowls regularly all around Western New York, but because of his work schedule, primarily at spare time lanes on Wednesday nights, where he's averaging about 2:15. And you can see a very early and in-control start for Pat Brick here in this first match of the day from Classic Lanes in Kenmore.
There we go.
There's a good one from Jeff.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Still down by more than 30 points at this point. That will help as Jeff tries to climb back in this one. That's 4 in a row for Jeff Walsh right now. 4 strikes in a row. So he's not letting up on Pat Brick, even though he got off to that rough start. There's a look at the updated scoreboard, our Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard.
Still a 34-pin lead, but now it's up to Pat to maintain it.
I wonder if, as good as Pat Brick is and has been in our circles, he wasn't able to qualify, or maybe just qualifying didn't work out as well for him on Beat the Champ. I'm sure it was bugging him a little bit. He sees the Zarcones and the Zazowskis of the world Tony Dolans that have racked up some big numbers here on TV. I'm sure he wanted a piece of that, so it's good to see that he's been able to make our show here for the second time in the last 3 months.
That's true. Seeing Pat is a good thing, and he is right up there with those guys, and they're all tournament bowlers, and they all support the local events going on here, so he absolutely is where he belongs.
70 career 300 games for Pat, over 30 career 800 series for him. And I love the fact that on his biography sheet, he just said, Sue knows a lot of stuff about me. I think what we all know about him right now is he's on a roll.
Friendly or not?
Well, I wasn't even asking you to go there.
No.
That is 5 strikes in a row for Pat Brick and a big, healthy lead right now over Jeff Walsh, and a very impressive showing for Pat, who does not want to be a one and done like he was up in Lockport.
Pat's a tremendous person, tremendous family man.
And that's 5 in a row for Jeff, who has not let up at all either. So this is a great match to start things off. And what did you say in our open? This is a high-scoring house, and we are already looking like we're going to get high scores right off the bat.
Yeah, absolutely. Jeff just started a little bit deeper than he should have, and I'm sure he wants that second and third frame back.
So here's Jeff eyeing it up in the ninth.
Oh, got a little
he'll
slow.
leave the picket fence on the right-hand side, the 136. And that may be the clincher right there,
Yeah,
if it wasn't
it's a valiant
already.
effort to try to keep that gap close, but Pat just wouldn't let up. Because even though
Good spare pickup for Jeff Walsh.
even though Pat has been the high qualifier with these monster scores, he's still yet to win a match here at Beat the Champ. So, you know, Pat had something to prove here today.
Yeah, I absolutely think he did. And that's, you know, I mean, again, he's one of the best in town, but he, you know, for whatever it's worth, did not have a win here on our show, and now he will. So
let's see if he can keep this going.
wow, what a nice run.
I don't know if you could see it, but that ball he threw just a little bit firmer. He was super solid at the line, and that ball was absolutely thrown with all the confidence of, I want to put this match away.
It's interesting that you
No
can
nerves
see that.
there.
Interesting
You
that
could hear it.
can
You
tell
could
that.
actually, you could hear it when it hit the lane. That was a firm. That was a no nonsense ball he threw there.
Looking for 7 strikes in a row. Got it. What a run. What a game for Pat Brick. Other than a spare in the third, this one may just be nearly perfect. Still
Could go
got a
off the
couple
sheet
of more
here
to throw.
For 279 if he strikes in the next 2. So he's 260 now, looking for 270. I'm sorry, 250 going for 260.
8 in a row. And a chance to finish with 9 consecutive strikes on the last ball here.
Well, 270 was going to be a difficult game to beat for anyone. Even someone as good as Jeff Walsh.
Yeah, quite a show put on by Pat Brick, and he'll have a chance to put the exclamation point on it now and post the final score.
And get that first win under his belt.
Of
Great
course,
game.
how else would you end it? What a performance, a 279 for Pat Brick. Again, just a spare in the third frame, the only blemish on this match. Jeff Walsh will finish things out, and a nice run by Jeff himself as well, too, and he'll finish strong also. But when you're battling a guy who puts a 279 on the board, you've got to be nearly perfect, and those 2 open frames early are what really killed Jeff Walsh in this match. So
Great camaraderie between the two guys right there, though. They're chatting it up, having a nice conversation. 2 good friends right there.
I think that's the one thing that I've noticed through our run here of this show is that all the guys are buddies and they're all friends. They all know each other. They're rivals, but they're friendly rivals. And they all want to beat each other, but they want to do it in a classy way with a lot of sportsmanship. And that's what's great about the sport of bowling here in
It
Western
is.
New York.
Bowling is a community, and it's that way from the league standpoint. When you go to your local houses, everyone knows each other, and everyone hangs out together, has conversation. How was your summer? Go from pair to pair and talk. It's not just show up and bowl. Bowling is a definite community.
Well, let's see if Jeff can grab a difficult split here. He'll get 1, so it'll be the 3rd open frame of the match for Jeff, and he will post up a 211 final score, and made a nice run after the slow start, but Pat Brick was nearly dominant in this one. We'll find out how he's feeling. We'll talk to Jeff and Pat when we come back. It's a 279 to 211 win for Pat Brick, our first match of the day here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. It's a 279 to 211 win for Pat Brick over Jeff Walsh. That 279, Pat, ties the highest score anybody has ever bowled here on Beat the Champ, which just means, Jeff, you kind of ran into a buzzsaw, didn't you?
I made 2 errant shots, and against him, that's not going to be a good thing. So.
Right. Well, I know you said I'm getting tired of standing next to you. We got to get you back on the other side there with a few more wins.
That's my plan. We'll get back to it.
Right. But now, Pat, for the first time, he gets to hang out with you, Sue.
I like it.
All those big scores you shot to make the show, being the high qualifier twice, you got that elusive first win in. What can we look forward to now?
probably a couple more. It's not going to get any easier. Jeff had a slow start, but once he started striking, I thought he was going to get to 240. But it certainly is not going to get easier because there's a lot of good players today. So.
All right, so it was an impressive performance by Pat. Just one spare, strikes across the board. They'll try to keep it rolling in our next match against Andy Ochal when Beat the Champ returns to Classic Lanes in Kenmore. Match number 2 features Andy Ochal challenging Pat Brick, and Andy will start things off, so we'll get our first look at the 32-year-old native of Hamburg who currently lives in Kenmore, Revenue Systems Manager at Schofield Care. So Andy making his Beat the Champ debut. So here we go with his first roll of the day. And that's not a bad way to start.
Yeah, Andy's got a little bit more of a down and in game. He's playing the lanes further right than Jeff did, but it's got a great angle to the pocket.
And now Pat Brick will try to come back and maintain that high level of performance that he had in the 279 put on the board there. Thanks to the guys on the stat crew here at Beat the Champ for informing us that that is tied for the highest score we've had so far, because, as you've heard us mention, there has not been a 300 game in 10 months of Beat the Champ.
That's right. So
I'm not afraid to say it.
How difficult that
I'm not
actually
afraid
is.
to say it. I know that violates some rules of etiquette. You're not supposed to talk about it, but, and maybe it's today. This is a high-scoring place at Classic Lane, so maybe it happens today. Although it's not going to happen, at least for Pat, in this match. Spare for Pat Brick to start things off.
So we found as time has gone on that it's been a little bit hard to maintain winning on Beat the Champ, because these one-game matches, anything can happen. And it seems like the incoming winner has to kind of go through lane changes where the person coming on, that's the only condition they've seen. So now we've got to see if Pat can tweak his game a little bit as his side tends to change now as he goes along.
We also have seen that the lefties have had a bit of an advantage because of the reasons that you said, that it's not as used as the other side of the lane. So we've seen the lefties perform at a really high level. Tony Dolan, the first one that comes to mind there. So that's been kind of an interesting strategy to balance a little bit too. Now, on those first 2 throws there, Pat's just missed that corner 7 pin.
Well, he's experiencing a little bit of a change in the lanes because he's been bowling on them. So, normally this is early, so they're equal. Same amount of games been played on the left side as the right side. Normally you'll have a lot more played on the right side, which is why you get that skewed with the left-handers. But right now we're really on equal ground.
32-year-old Andy Ochal's been bowling since he was 5 years old. And a little bit of a late fall, but it works for his second consecutive strike.
Yeah, that ball was going a little bit high. Got a break there, breaking up that split.
Andy bowls regularly at the Abbott Bowling Center on Monday nights, a 235 average. There you see our early look at the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, and manned as always by Janelle Sabin. So Andy stays busy bowling on Monday nights. He's had 14 career 300 games. 2007 Buffalo Bowling Kickoff Tournament champion. Oh, a lot of wobble there, but it was not going to fall.
Almost cut another break. That ball went high as well, so he's going to have to make an adjustment out there.
Once again, Andy making his Beat the Champ debut. Spare in the 3rd frame for Andy Ochal.
So we've got a qualifier coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got, for the next Beat the Champ show, it's going to be at Island Lanes. And the first qualifier will be on a Wednesday, September 28th. Almost time to put away the shorts.
I was just thinking that this may be our last broadcast where you see the guys wearing the shorts.
Weather's still nice here in September.
It sure is. Supposed to be nice for most of the rest of September, but... And there's Patrick's first strike here in the 3rd frame.
So
it's not that we don't mind seeing the legs of all these high-quality bowlers, but, I think that'll come to an end soon enough.
Nope, time for the dress pants coming up pretty soon.
That's right. So yeah, as you mentioned, September 28th, Wednesday night from 7 to 9 is the first qualifier for next month's series of shows up at Island Lanes, and then the qualifying will continue that weekend on both Saturday and Sunday, with the top 24 rolling off on Sunday the 2nd at 7 o'clock, and we will tape our shows up in Grand Island on October 5th.
Right. They've actually got a 10 p.m. squad going on that Saturday night. So for the late owls, they can come out and bowl beginning at 10 o'clock.
Bowlers are late owls? Is that what you're telling me?
Can you believe it? So Pat's
that may be our best attended session.
Yeah, right.
Knowing the bowling community in this
town. Well, the travel leagues bowl on Saturdays, so they can just stay out and bowl their qualifier at 10 p.m.
Either that or that had something to do with Malwitz not wanting to get up early that day.
Probably not.
Good strike for Andy Ochal in the 4th frame. 3 strikes and a spare to begin with, but Pat Brick seems to be finding a little groove too.
That's right, so this match is pretty even up right now, depending on what Pat does, but very, very close, within pins.
Andy gives a lot of credit to his late grandfather and his dad for helping coach him over the years and getting him to the high-quality bowler that he is today. And they would come to his high school matches and always cheer him on and support him. First person from his high school, Frontier High School in Hamburg, to average 200. The first person from Frontier to make it to the state tournament. So an outstanding career that started all the way back in the young days for Andy Ochal.
Yeah, Andy's family has always been around. You know, us bowlers are used to seeing his family members sitting there behind him. We all know them.
He's got a bunch of them here for our taping as well. His mom, his dad, his grandmother, his mother-in-law, and his wife Andrea all here checking out the performance and the TV debut for Andy Ochal, who spares in the 5th frame. So it's at the moment a 30-pin lead for Andy, but Pat's got a chance to carve into that here in frame 5. Going to be a big couple of months for Pat Brick. He will be inducted into the Greater Buffalo USBC Bowling Hall of Fame in November. Well-deserved honor. I know you'll be at the event. I'll be there as well, too.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ-TV.
Pat Brick's on a run of 4 strikes in a row. How about 5? There you go, and he is finding his groove. Now, something interesting I noticed a little bit about Pat is he will start with 1 foot off the lanes as he lines himself up. I don't know, is that unusual or not? Or it seems like most of the guys will step up and start where Pat stands back a bit.
Well, how much you use of the approach is how much ball speed you want to create. So the people that stand way back are really just trying to create leg speed, because ball speed actually is generated from your legs, not from your swing. Your swing's supposed to be loose and pendulum, and the strength of it is supposed to be generated by your legs.
6 in a row for Pat Brick. 6 strikes in a row following spares in the first 2 frames, and a healthy control of this match for the soon-to-be Hall of Famer Pat Brick. Former Obenauer Masters champion. All the bowlers know what that means here in Western New York. So Andy's going to have to make a big run here in his final 3 frames, and that's the way to start it.
He made his adjustment, but it might be a little too late. Well, it's Pat's got a 30-plus pin lead right now, and we're running out of real estate here. It's getting kind of late in the game, so.
There's your updated look at the Castellone scoreboard. Still shows it tight there, but Pat, by nature of that run of strikes, has got a healthier lead than that. But Andy's putting the heat on him with 2 in a row. So now Pat will finish things out here. He ended the last match with 9 consecutive strikes. Started this one with 2 spares, and now he's on a run of 6 in a row. Got his first Beat the Champ win to defeat Jeff Walsh in our first match of the day, looking for number 2. really looking to stand next to you and grab that trophy for the first time. 7 in a row, the magnificent 7 for Pat Brick.
Well, I was waiting for that shot to be over with before I mentioned that he could also shoot 279 again this match. So 3 strikes in a row here gives him another 279. And I did mention how he shot 800 to qualify and how he's been high qualifier twice. When he starts striking, he can put some big numbers up.
Yeah, he's the first bowler that we've had on Beat the Champ since we've been doing this since January to be the top qualifier twice in 2 different bowling establishments. No one has done that. On different oil
On
patterns.
different patterns. I was just going to mention that.
There you go. There's another one for Pat.
When he was high qualified at Alley Brandt, he qualified on a sport shot, which is one of the more difficult scoring conditions, and then he found a way to qualify here on a house shot. So definitely, like you said, older technique. He got some older technology. Later on, we'll ask him a little bit about that.
The 7-year-old ball that he's using, you mean?
Yep, absolutely. Well, it tends to be smoother. It reads these old wind conditions better.
And the strike run comes to an end with that 7-pin that hangs up here in the 10th frame. So it was 8 in a row for Pat Brick, but that is not going to prevent him from getting another victory. So final score to be posted after this one. And Pat Brick, after a 279, follows up with a 248. How about that for some consistency? Oh, I'm sorry, you're right. I looked up too early. 268.
Pat's averaging 270 on this show today.
Good, strong finish for Andy Ochal as well, too.
Andy made his adjustment just a little bit too late, but that's part of the one-game match strategy. You have to be on top of the changes. Pat had to make a little bit of an adjustment, and he figured it out first.
And I think what you've helped educate all of the people watching, and me especially, is that the high-level guys like Pat are usually better at the adjustments than some of the other guys, and those can be the differences in the matches, and we've seen that here. Pretty much we see that every week.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Again, the one game matches, you got to be very quick with your changes. When you see something starting to happen, bowlers learn to read their 7 pins, their 10 pins, their ball reaction. Got to be quick to move. The tough part is when you have to change balls. Pat didn't have to change balls yet. He's been able to tweak it with his eyes or his swing or his ball speed. He's been able to change it. Andy here had to make a bigger adjustment because his ball started to not react anymore, and he had to make a bigger adjustment. Changing balls is hard.
Nice round of applause, as you heard, for Andy Ochal. It's a 268 to 236 win for Pat Brick over Andy Ochal. 2 in a row for Pat. We'll find out what's working so well for Pat. We'll talk to Andy about his debut when we come back following our second match here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. You're watching Beat the Champ. .268 to 236, the second win in a row for Pat Brick over his buddy Andy Ochal. Sue talked about the relationship between you guys. Harder or easier to bowl one of your best friends?
It's actually funner. You get to joke around with the guy, you know him. You can joke around, have a good time. We're just friends for a while, so everything was a good game.
Right.
He bowled really well today.
Right, and you also, because you know him so well, you know when he gets on a roll that he's tough to stop.
That's correct, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So,
Pat, that 7-year-old technology you're using out there.
It's working out. It's blending the lane out. It gives me a little bit more room on the lane. The patterns, it can be somewhat forgiving, and this ball just makes it. It blends it out. I could miss a little in, miss a little left, and still hopefully carry.
Well, you're averaging 270 out there, so.
Well, yeah, that's not going to be like that all day, but I'm happy about it, though.
well, and maybe it will be. The way Pat's bowling, who knows? He might keep that up. We'll find out. Next match against Sam Carson as Pat Brick tries to sweep the week and take the hardware home. Will he do it? We'll find out when Beat the Champ returns to Classic Lanes right after this. Sam Carson will be the next guy to challenge Pat Brick and try to prevent him from being our first ever top qualifier to win the first 3 matches that he's been a part of and sweep a weekly show. So a little chance of history there on Beat the Champ for Pat Brick, but Sam is standing in the way, and Sam's pretty hot himself as well too, Sue. This is the 2nd month that he has qualified for our show. He also bowled last month right down the road at Manor Lanes.
Right. So he figured it out pretty quickly, Sam. First time we saw him last month, and now we get to see him again. And, well, we know Pat has something to prove here today, so we're going to see the best he has to give.
We're at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. ClassicLanesNY.com is where you find all your information. Sam Carson, 1 appearance so far on Beat the Champ. As I mentioned, that was last month at Manor Lanes. He lost his first match, so he is looking for his first Beat the Champ victory. And he will get the spare in the first frame, will Sam Carson, and turn things over to Pat. .268, .279, the first 2 winning scores for Pat Brick here, as he tries to become the 4th Beat the Champ bowler to sweep a week. Trivia, do you know who the other 3 guys to have done that so far are?
We should find out.
I'm sure half of Western New York are viewers. They probably know.
Well, John Palmer was one.
John Palmer was the first,
and
yes.
we haven't seen John in a little while.
You're right. One of our bowlers later today is also one of those guys.
Actually, John Palmer just missed the show. He was 15th, and we take the top 9, so he's been out here trying, working at it.
We had some real celebrities that just missed the show this week, like Mike Zarcone and Matt Zazowski. Some of our top bowlers, Dan Melodonna, some of our top Beat the Champ guys are not a part of this month's show. They just missed out on the qualifying. Chuck Jagosinski was who we will see later on this month. He was the 2nd guy to sweep a week, and the 3rd guy to do it was Matt White.
Matt White came all the way from Pennsylvania, so...
Who beat Pat Brick, if I'm not mistaken, in that first match. And a little bit of a baby split there left for Pat Brick in frame number 2.
Yeah, that's the result of going a little bit high, but still a good shot. We call that a pocket split. That's just a bad break of pins, but makeable. Can slide the 6 into the 8.
Well, remember, in the last match, Pat Brick spared the first 2 frames and still put a .268 on the board, so a somewhat disappointing beginning does not usually impact Pat's performance, but that's going to be an open frame in the 2nd for Pat Brick, and Sam Carson, coming off the spare in the first frame, now has a chance to grab a little control. Sam's from the City of Tonawanda, 51 years old, a bakery worker for Tops Market. He's been bowling since he was a youngster, probably started somewhere around 7 or 8 years old. And the interesting thing about Sam, if you'll recall from our shows last month at Manor Lanes, Sam bowls both lefty and righty.
Right, and I said we'd have to see what he came out with today, but as you can see by the contraption on his right arm,
good word,
that he's bowling right-handed.
I think that's a piece of the fender from his car that's strapped on his right wrist.
Yeah, those are meant to keep your wrist in position and allow no movement whatsoever. They're very restricted.
And we talked about this when Sam bowled up at Manor, is you have to declare which arm you're using and you have to stick to it. You can't change in the middle of a match. Right. But unique in the fact that Sam can bowl pretty adeptly either way.
Right. Well, Pat's a testimony to the wear and tear of a lot of bowling, because he's got the band on his right knee, which is his slide knee because he's left-handed, and he's got the compression sleeve on his left arm. That's not a tattoo. That's actually a compression sleeve, and that's for elbow pain. So got a little wear and tear on that body.
And there's a strike from Pat Brick in the 3rd. Well, you know, he's probably bowled hundreds of thousands of games and thrown hundreds of thousands of frames.
Oh,
so
definitely.
At some point, you know, like any other athlete, there's going to be wear and tear.
Pat's a weekend warrior. He's out bowling tournaments almost every single weekend. And he'd like to mention that he appreciates that Angela, his wife, who's also an excellent bowler from Syracuse area and has been here for a long time since college, that she gives him the opportunity to go out and compete the way he loves to.
Yeah, he got a late fall there to leave just one pin up, but that one kind of lost its steam as it hit the pocket.
No, we're going to find that as the matches go by, he's going to have to, again, make adjustments. We talked about it last match. He went a little bit high. The 6-8 is a result of a little bit of a high hit. If you make a little bit of move off that, this ball went light.
So Pat's going to look for the spare here in the fourth frame, and he doesn't get it. You heard the oh no from somebody in the back of the stand, in a crowd here that saw it right away.
Yep, he got that too much into the oil. The ball never made a move.
So that's 2 open frames in the first 4 for Pat Brick, rather uncharacteristic based on the way he's been bowling so far. But so now Sam Carson has to try to take advantage of that. Sam bowls on Monday nights at the Tonawanda Bowling Center and bowls in a league on Fridays at Tonawanda as well, too. And once again, that kind of losing its momentum a little bit when it hits the pocket, and he'll leave 2 pins on the right-hand side.
Well, Sam missed his target to the left, so we call that pulling the ball. He got that one inside of where he wanted to, so the ball went high, and he actually got a break there by getting the 7 out.
And it's a spare in the fourth frame for Sam Carson.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
So here's Pat Brick in the 7th frame.
Big shot for Pat here. If he can strike on this shot, he will go up in this match. And with Sam posting that strike, it makes this ball all that much more important.
Not going to get it. 7 pin stays up for Pat Brick here in frame 7. And now, once again, the single pin spare, which has not been as easy for these guys as you'd think it would be.
No, this is important cover here. Great cover. Let me tell you, it's probably the pin us bowlers shoot the most. It's probably the most common spare. For a righty would be the 10 pin, for a lefty would be the 7 pin. Mm-hmm. And the most difficult to make when something's on the line. And yet the one you shoot the most.
As you can see, we're at a tie at the moment.
Right.
105. As we advance through to the 8th frame. So this one's coming right down to the wire. And again, Pat doesn't seem to be hitting the pocket with as much force and power as we saw early on.
That was just a bad shot. He knows it was a bad shot. You saw him kind of making motions with his hands. He didn't hit his target on that. So he needs to make this spare and regroup.
Good spare in the 8th frame for Pat Brick.
And Sam knows how important the next ball is because he's up on a strike.
Sam had a strike in the 7th, and here he is in the 8th, and this is a very crucial frame for him. His mom and his brother are here watching and cheering him on here in the 8th frame. Sam Carson. Not going to get the strike, going to leave 2 pins.
A little bit light, leaving a 2-8. Another difficult spare with the sleeper in the back, soldier in the back. Many terms for this.
Just pick one. You're going to confuse me if you throw more of them at it.
I like to call it a sleeper.
The sleeper. I think I like that too.
Got to hit this straight on the 2 pin in order to make this spare.
Target is good, and the spare is successful for Sam Carson.
So a 3-pin lead for Sam, even up in, both with a spare up in the 8th.
So he'll advance to the 9th frame here, and like I said, this one will not be decided until the 10th frame. Final match of the day here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. Pat Brick trying to pull off the 3-match sweep. Sam Carson looking for his first Beat the Champ victory and what would be his first winning trophy.
Wow.
And that's not going to help.
That is not what he wanted to do. He missed way inside his target. He pulled the ball way left on that. Disastrous results.
And a very, very challenging split to pull off here.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Let's see what Sam can do, and he'll miss them all. So that is a third open frame in this match for Sam Carson. Very uncharacteristic for him. And talk about leaving the garage door open for Pat Brick. Not just the front door, but the garage door. Big one here and a big result in the 9th frame for Pat Brick. Huge strike for Pat.
I mentioned earlier that Pat's a little hard on himself. That was a really good shot right there, and a shot he really needed to make.
He didn't seem to like it. Well, nobody knows better than the bowler themselves whether they threw it. Sometimes you get lucky. Sometimes things fall your way. I would assume that that wasn't exactly what he wanted to do, although the result was there.
Well, it's also the result of having the right ball in your hand. I think you like that one a little bit better.
Yeah, that sounded like a Pat Brick strike.
High flush.
So a big opportunity here for Pat to pull off the weekly sweep.
That cemented the match for Pat right there. Because the best Sam can go out for is 179. Pat's got 170 already in the 9th frame.
Another strike here in the 10th for Pat Brick. 3 in a row to end with a chance for one more. So we're going to add Pat Brick's name to the list of players that have swept a week here on Beat the Champ, but we're going to put him at the top of the list of top qualifiers who have started the month with 3 consecutive victories. That has not happened yet.
Yep, this is the Pat Brick we know and love right here.
One more for Pat to post a final score. And up on the board for Pat Brick is a 201. Not exactly equivalent to the 279 and 268 he threw, but a win's a win.
A win's a win. You just got to pull higher than the person you're
how
going
many,
against.
they just ask if you want. So Sam Carson will finish things out. Disappointing for Sam because he had to know that there was a huge opportunity when Pat left those 2 open frames in the first 4, but he just could not battle his way through that.
Well as a physical game of skill, this is also a big mental game. So the ups and downs in this match, it came down to who was going to figure it out and kind of push all the bad thoughts out of your head.
I'll tell you what, we'll talk about more about this in a moment, but it sets up a match of titans for our first show next week, as it's going to be Pat Brick and Tony Dolan. How about that for 2 of the best bowlers, maybe the 2 best bowlers in all of Western New York.
2 best left-handers for sure.
Well, there you go. But that's next week. We'll get to that in a moment. Sam will finish off his match here. And our final score is on the board, a 168 for Sam. So it's a 201, a 168 win for Pat Brick and a sweep of the first week here on our month-long stay at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. We'll hand Pat Brick his first big Beat the Champ trophy. We'll talk to Sam and Pat about a terrific match when we come back. It's Beat the Champ on the road in Kenmore. We're back right after this. Pat Brick becomes our first top qualifier to sweep the first 3 matches of his performance here on Beat the Champ with the win over Sam Carson. Sam, when Pat left 2 open in the first 3, you had to feel like there was a pretty good chance for you.
Yeah, there was, and I didn't take advantage of it, unfortunately.
What happened? Where did you miss out on?
It seemed like the right lane got really tight, and I got a little loose with a couple shots, and when I didn't make that split, I thought I had a shot at it. It looked good for about 2 seconds, and then a 10-pin didn't go down for it. And I kind of figured Pat would be all over that.
Yeah, he's a tough guy. When you leave the door open for, he isn't. So finally, Sue, you get to hand Pat Brick one of these trophies.
Well, I'm holding it off for a second. A little lower scoring than what we've seen from you. What changes did you see out there?
Yeah, the second frame I left that split. I pinched it in a little bit and it hooked up. Then on the fourth frame, the back over there, I over-adjusted, left a 3-pin, missed it by a lot. Kids, if you're watching, practice your spares because spares win matches. And then after that, I lost my timing a little bit, but then I found it towards the end. But
Okay, well, good timing getting that back. So here's your trophy.
thank you very much.
Well, there you
Congratulations.
go. We get a trophy and a teaching tip for Pat Brick. Good stuff. That's great. And a terrific match because we're going to get to see more of Pat Brick. He's going to come back next week. Sue and I will preview next week's series of shows from here at Classic Lanes. Another terrific match. We'll be back from Classic Lanes to get you ready for next week. Right after this, you're watching Beat the Champ. Boy, what a great way to start off our month-long stay here at Classic Lanes as Pat Brick becomes just the 4th Beat the Champ bowler to sweep a week, joining John Palmer, Chuck Jagosinski, and Matt White. He was very impressive today, Sue, wasn't he?
He was. He had 279, 268. We had a little bit less with a 201. But it just shows what a solid performer Pat was, and it was only a matter of time till we got him out here to see what he's all about.
It took a little while for him to get rolling on this show, but as we've said, he's one of the best guys in Western New York, and it's been fun to watch him, and it's going to be even more fun to watch him next week because his first match comes up against one of the best guys in Western New York, and that's Tony Dolan. I'm already excited for that one.
Absolutely. The lefty versus lefty battle. We'll see how it plays out.
So that's the first match of next week's show here at Classic Lanes in Kenmore. It was a great first week. For everybody on the crew here at WBBZ-TV, and of course, Sue, my name is Paul Peck. We hope to see you next week when we return with Beat the Champ to Classic Lanes in Kenmore.